Hi, this is Heidi, episode 78, Shame, Blame, and Our Bodies. Life isn't a spectator sport. Success comes to those who show up every day with a pocket full of courage, grit, and a little sparkle. I'm glad you're here. Hello. How are you, friends, family, new podcast listeners, those who have been with me for almost 2 years now? I'm glad you are here. I know some of you are new members to my Facebook group for women, Lose Weight and Gain Confidence with Heidi. This episode is going to be released during the first week of our 14-day challenge, the first week of February. We're going to have 14 days of mental, emotional, and habit challenges. It's going to be fun. Make sure you jump in, comment, get a friend or a sister or coworker to join you. Women are seriously the best cheerleaders for each other. There will be a few weekly prizes. One is a month of free Zoom exercise classes with one of my favorite coaches of all time. And the grand prize is an Apple Watch. I have this welcome in my group, and I'm going to put it here too. We are all perfect and amazing just as we are. Regardless of our size, our shape, our color, we don't need to change to be more valuable or more worthy. We just know a healthier and more confident life feels better. This group is for women who want to stop the emotional eating cycles and build rock solid confidence in every area of their life. So that is a good intro into today's episode topic. We all have a body, and we are sent messages through our culture, through the media, maybe through our family of origin, through advertising about what bodies should look like. Now, maybe those words aren't used exactly, but subconscious messages are sent to us. Maybe even sitcoms will poke fun at overweight characters. I don't need to go into all the sources of this. I'm going to assume that you can recognize all the areas where you've probably created the image of what a great body is for yourself. Now, to add to that, we have social media nowadays. I have bigger calves, and I remember growing up, and I had definitely had this vision of like what perfect legs were, and I did not have what that perfect vision was. So I felt a little less perfect or a little less, quote, good, let's say. I wanted something that physically isn't even possible. It isn't even realistic to me. Now, I could go through my body and name each part and probably tell you a time when I compared this part to someone else or to that perfect image in my head and felt inferior or less worthy in some sense. And we're wired for comparison. We have an overactive part of our brain that's always ranking and seeing how we compare in case there's something that we could change or improve about ourselves. So when the images we constantly see are images that we don't match up to, our brain on default is going to constantly think that we're not good enough. And anytime we feel broken, that something's wrong with us, we create the feeling of shame. And shame grows the more we build up evidence that we aren't good enough. It grows as we think more and more negative thoughts. And what shame does is make us powerless. The more broken we think we are, the more wrong and inferior we think our body is, the less control we assume to make any change. In fact, the shame creates more negative emotions in our body, which usually leads us to eat more calories, high fat, high sugar, and refined carbs, which lands us in a sabotaging and emotional eating cycle. So when we're feeling shame, we end up feeling powerless, and we truly aren't seeing ourselves exactly as we are. We're hating some version of ourselves that we're comparing to this made up image that doesn't even exist. So our shame really isn't rooted in reality. Now, I like to show this visual to clients on a whiteboard. Shame is on one end of a continuum. On the clear other end of the continuum is blame. Blame is also a powerless emotion. Blame is created when we believe we don't have responsibility for our body. Now, blame and shame continuums work in every situation in our life. But for this episode, I'm going to use our bodies as the example, since the shame and blame for sure impacts how we feel about ourselves, which is the foundation for how we feel about everything in our life. So shame at one end assumes way too much responsibility, like a distorted sense of responsibility. On the other end, blame releases all control and responsibility and gives it to everything and everyone else in our life, which is equally not rooted in reality. Blame sounds like this: I'm overweight because my family is all overweight, or I travel and I don't have control over my food, so I just can't eat healthy or work out. My mom has a sweet tooth and was a sugar addict, so I am too, and I just can't control it. Or it's been a pandemic, so I just had to make banana bread every day, and it's all COVID's fault that I've gained 20 pounds. Now, any statement where we blame someone else for our circumstances is very disempowering, and it isn't reality. For a long time, I blamed the food and lack of nutrition education that I had growing up for my own current health problems, which felt good for a hot second and also fed into a lot of self-pity, all of which didn't help me make changes because I was handing over control. So I want you to picture, if you will, shame and blame on opposite sides of the spectrum. Both ends are not where we can make change to our health. Now, I'm not going to say there possibly isn't some reality or truth in possibly some beliefs on either side. It might be useful to acknowledge, let's say, some physical hormonal challenges you might have that are making weight loss difficult. Or maybe it's useful to acknowledge the food culture you were raised in has contributed to your current emotional eating habits. Or maybe your sister had an eating disorder and you feel triggered in certain situations. Certain characteristics about our body do contribute in ways that we are going to metabolize or store fat. It's just that we have to be very careful how we think about those situations and not give them more weight or value than necessary. We always want to get to the middle of the spectrum, of the continuum. This is where real change happens. The middle is reality. The middle is where we accept who we really are. I really like to picture that the shame and blame ends of the continuum are also us digging holes for ourselves. We can't make change until we're on level ground, which is accepting and seeing the truth of a situation, the truth about our body. So here is the truth. We all have human bodies. I guess we're all humans. My family's been watching a lot of Star Wars, but none of us are robots, okay? Our bodies are all on purpose different. It would not be fun if we all looked the exact same. Football players need their muscles and their body to do what they have to do. Women's bodies are different than men's bodies because most of us are going to grow even a baby in our body. Now, here is the middle ground. Let's say a client comes to me feeling a lot of shame about their body, which I want to say is everyone and has been me. And at times I have to pull myself still out of that side of the continuum. Okay, my clients feel shame because they think there's some willpower or character defect that they've gained weight, and none of that is true. Reality and acceptance starts with this first truth. Our bodies stored fat because we fed them too much fuel. Our body knows what to do with this exact fuel that it didn't use during the days and weeks and years that we gave it too much. It stored it for another time. So good job, body. You did what you're supposed to do. We literally cannot make any change until we see reality as it is, pulling ourselves away from the shame and blame ends. Our hands put food in our mouths more than our body needed, and our body knew what to do with it. That's it. Once you believe this, you can make any change you want, because this middle place, this place of reality and acceptance, is where we have control. Now, I shared with you in my podcast episode about my weight loss journey, about how at my first Weight Watchers meeting after my first child was born, it was my first check-in and I had gained 3 pounds when everyone else loses weight during that week. And I felt such massive shame. I felt awful. I felt like something was wrong with me, like I'd never be able to change. And I wanted so bad to blame every person and everyone and everything else. Self-pity felt way too good at that moment. But as I shared in that episode, in the time I sat in that meeting debating, do I leave and give it all up and eat food to soothe my shame? Or do I stay the course to make changes and stay accountable to myself? The time in that meeting was like 20 minutes of bringing myself to the middle, accepting that the scale said 3 pounds heavier, and accepting that I, and only I, had the power to decide if I would take the steps toward a healthier future or a powerless self-pity and victimhood future. Coming to the middle meant accepting my body also just created this amazing body. It had stored a lot of fat on it, and I was also in charge of what I ate and how I moved my body. The middle was and continues to be the place where I'm in control of what I eat, how much I exercise, when I go to the doctor to find out if there is something that I could change about my hormones, how active my vacations are, or how healthy our family meals are. The middle is also acknowledging certain parts of my body are certain shapes, and it's all good. No shame in any of it. I used to be 5'7", now I'm only 5'6". Gravity must be working. When we step on the scale, shaming is saying how bad we are for our body to require that amount of gravitational pull. Blaming is saying somebody or something else is to blame for that number, which, let's be honest, after a long flight, maybe there is some water weight to blame. The middle is where we find reality, and acceptance is seeing the scale is just another data point. It just is. We decide what that number means. Anytime we make the number mean something bad about us, we've slipped down the continuum to shame, and we've given away some of our control and power. Now, anytime we get on the scale and make it mean the people or events in our life are bad and sabotaging, we've slipped down the continuum to blame. And guess what? I'm the first to tell you reality and acceptance might not feel positive. I've learned myself, if we want and need to make change, we might need to feel some discomfort. Maybe we choose to think I've slipped into some bad eating habits and I want to cut back for a while. The negative emotion of discomfort or disappointment are useful. We just acknowledge that we create them. Feelings are not problems to be solved. And we decide what we do with those emotions. Can they motivate and encourage us? A very mature and confident adult can sit with the discomfort of, I made some poor choices this last month. I know better, and I'm going to start today to make better choices. There's nothing wrong with me or shameful about me. My body is a gift, and I'm going to start treating it with more care because I love me. This is the middle. This is accepting reality. Now, anyone in my private or group coaching knows I put a lot of emphasis on talking very kindly to yourself and really liking yourself. Some parts of our society can teach us that we shouldn't like or love ourselves, that that's arrogance. I've said it before and I'll never stop saying it. Confidence and self-acceptance are one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. They are not arrogance. Arrogance is very insecure and needing to compare to another person. Arrogance thinks being amazing takes away from someone else's amazing. Confidence, self-acceptance, and reality don't require comparison. In fact, the most confident people live as much as possible squarely in the middle, taking responsibility for their reality and accepting what is and feeling empowered to make any change they want. Okay, that's it for today. Again, I hope you're in my free Facebook group, Lose Weight and Gain Confidence with Heidi. Mini trainings always dive deeper into these topics. Y'all, focus on small, sustainable changes. It's February. Other people are giving up on their goals, but everyone in my group isn't. We are doing it. If you want to know how to use these tools to achieve your goals and get out of your way, sign up for a consult call at HeidiBenjaminson.com. I promise you, you will not fail. A confident mother is the greatest gift to our families, not a perfect mother. Your family wants you to feel confident, anchored, and calm. I can guide and coach you to uncover this beautiful version of yourself. Have a great week.